Trending in China, where we dive into the latest buzz around the Chinese economy and beyond.
What's really remarkable is how cities in Jiangsu are using Su Chao to showcase their local identity. They're trying to tying the matches into cultural events and tourism promotions and even consumer campaigns.
There is a deep-rooted passion, and from my perspective, I think that part of the country in particular has a long history of success.
That's what grassroots football is all about.
Yeah.
We're rivals on the pitch, but off it, we're friends.
The economic strength of each city in Jiangsu province is very balanced, and each city has its respective strengths. So when the fans they're cheering for the players, they're actually cheering for their city. So it's a kind of like sense of belonging for them.
One of the requirements of the school, if you want him to attend the school, you have to agree that he is going to play two major team sports. The reason for that being is you want to develop a holistic student, a boy who can play with other boys, work together to win a game, celebrate together, and lose together, and learn to accept how to lose. At the end of the match, shake the other team's hand, because in that way you develop young men who learn how to work, or young women who learn how to work in a team, to accept victory and defeat, both with honor, and to shake the other guy's or the other woman's hand and say, hey, well played.
Hello and welcome to Trending in China. I'm Yolanda, your host and an economic reporter based in Beijing. This summer, while the world watches major leagues, China's sports scene has been hijacked by an unexpected phenomenon, a grassroots football tournament with record-breaking crowds.
And this time it's not in Guizhou. This time it's in the east of the country, in Jiangsu. And it features 13 cities from Jiangsu province battling it out in some fantastic grassroots football action.
Right, Andre. Since kicking off in May, Su Chao has exploded from a local event into a national cultural movement. It's redefining sports fandom with packed stadiums, social media friends, and even shifting economic patterns. So, why is this league resonating so deeply, and what does its success reveal of Jiangsu's 13 cities? To unpack this, we are joined by two experts. Andre, our Beijing-based editor, China observer, and a lifelong sports fan who is originally from South Africa.
Correct, and I was also a sports reporter for 26 years, so I'm steeped in sport.
And we also have Eric He, a Jiangsu-based reporter who has covered Su Chao's cultural and economic ripple effects since day one. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Yolanda, Andre, and all the listeners.
Thank you. And together, we will explore how fishmongers, teachers, and even delivery drivers became local heroes, and why this tournament might change Chinese sports forever. Eric, so you have the cover story since the very beginning. Just walk us through. So what exactly is Su Chao and how massive has it become?
First of all, I'm really excited to join you to talk about Su Chao. Right now, it's one of the most exciting football leagues happening in China. Honestly, if you want to taste of the World Cup atmosphere before the real thing kicks off next year, you should come to Jiangsu. This league is turning a province of over 85 million people into one massive football festival. For those who might not have heard of Su Chao, especially if you're outside of Jiangsu, let me give you a bit of background. Some call it the Su Super League. The name is a playful nod to big professional leagues like the EPL and the CSL Chinese Super League, but this one is totally grassroots. The reason runs for the Su Chao season runs for a full 7 months, from May all the way to November, with 85 matches scheduled. Each of Jiangsu's 13 cities have its own representative team, and they go head-to-head in what you call regional derbies. Fans rally behind their hometown teams. The pride, the rivalry, the energy is all there. And the popularity, it's exploding, no joke. Just look at the match between Nanjing and Suzhou on July the 5th. over 60,000 people packed into the stadium. It's incredible. Every match day, hundreds of thousands, sometimes even over 1 million fans are trying to get tickets. So honestly, the only thing limiting the crowd size, I think, is how big the stadiums are. I have some stats for you. According to the official stats from the province, from Jiangsu, since the league kicked off on May the 10th, Su Chao, the content of Su Chao, has racked up over 11 billion views on short video platforms. It's a billion with a B, it's absolutely insane. And one more thing, I think what's even more amazing is that this isn't just happening inside the stadiums. Across Jiangsu, I've seen bars, public parks, city plazas. They've all set up massive screens, to broadcast the games. You normally only see this kind of atmosphere during the actual World Cup, but here it's happening week after week. So this is the basically information about Su Chao. Yeah. What's even more amazing is that all the games, this isn't just happening inside the stadiums. Across Jiangsu, bars and parks, the city plazas, they've all set up massive screens to broadcast the games. And this is, you can only see this kind of things normally during the actual World Cup season. But here it's happening week after week. So I think it's incredible.
Have you been to some of these games? And tell us, what's it like at the stadium?
The stadium, the crowds, they're doing like human waves. It's incredible. I've never been to an actual, a professional league before, but this one, if you've ever been there once, you just feel how amazing it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to go to watch one of these games. So,
and just on the point of expanding the game outside of the stadium, I remember I was a sports editor at a big radio station in South Africa during the 2010 World Cup, and I also attended the 1998 World Cup in France. But the 2010 one in South Africa, because there was such massive interest, and they knew that the tickets were limited. And also, South Africa is an economically challenged country. Many people don't have the money to buy tickets. We also had huge fan parks during the 2010 World Cup, so that the atmosphere in the stadium was basically felt throughout the country. And this, I think, is a fantastic idea in that it also allows those who can't access the stadium to be part of the whole atmosphere. And I think a very, very genius idea is the fact that it's 13 cities from the same province, because every game is effectively a derby. Sometimes in football you can have games, where maybe teams are playing at a neutral venue where the turnout's low. Look at the recent Club World Cup in the US. Some of the games were very poorly attended. So the fact that it's being expanded beyond the stadium itself is a very good idea. And as I say, when you're playing 13 effective derbies, there's always going to be that added interest, those bragging rights, which even people who may not necessarily be into football are thinking, wow, I hope the Nanjing team beats the Wuxi team, for example. That's a fantastic idea, I think.
Right. Yeah, we haven't seen this grassroots passion since there was a game called Guizhou Cunchao, the Village League. I have actually watched one of these games in Hong Kong, and the football team and the fans with these costumes, they dressed up they come to Hong Kong to play with the star team in Hong Kong. So it's not only a football game, it's more like a entertainment for local fans.
And a cultural event in many ways too.
Yeah, I really like it. So you already talked about the community sports culture in South Africa. Yeah. And what surprised you, Andre, most about the fan energy about Su Chao?
Well, I think, obviously that the tournament in Guizhou set a high bar. And it came at a time when there were some question marks about Chinese football, right? Let's be honest, the national team's been struggling. At roughly that time, the Chinese champion Jiangsu Suning went from being Chinese Super League champion to not existing in the space of 3 months. There was some good news, of course, because Suning were also involved with Inter Milan, a massive club, and the impact Suning had at Inter was very positive on a global scale. But I think the tournament in Guizhou just kind of breathed new life into Chinese football at a time with the whole property bubble and all that, where Chinese football took a really serious knock. And while the professional game at that point in China had reached a low, there was this regional tournament that combined culture and also local teams playing that I think gave football, Chinese football, a really good grassroots injection at a time when the team, the national team and also the professional clubs were struggling.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Eric, just tell us what exactly is driving the popularity, and why do you think it resonates with all the people, like in Jiangsu province and all over the country, maybe?
Yeah, first of all, I think I have to admit that at the beginning, when Su Chao first started, I really didn't expect it to blow up the way it has. After all, amateur leagues are not new in China. We've seen them pop up in different regions before, but this one, why we think that this is different, because a lot of Chinese media outlets and sports experts have been trying to unpack why exactly Su Chao has become such a sensation. For me, I think you've got people who normally don't watch football at all suddenly talking about teams, watching matches, or posting memes online. Something special that is happening that's at some point, I think it's around June, when I really started to realize how unique Su Chao is. There's one meme like this that's gotten really popular that reads competition first and friendship 14. That's a joke on the 13 cities involved, all fiercely competitive and not wanting to lose to each other. But in the end, the actual score is not what matters most. So I think what's really remarkable is how cities in Jiangsu are using Su Chao to showcase their local identity. They're trying to tying the matches into cultural events and tourism promotions and even consumer campaigns. So it's not just it's also, I think the most important thing is this: Su Chao has reminded people, just like Andrew mentioned, professional Chinese football may not be that good, but Su Chao has reminded people how joyful football can be. Pure joy, that kind goes beyond that. The joy that goes beyond stats and standings. I think that's what sets it apart. I have to mention one point, that is, even though Chinese football has had its struggles on the international stage, but what often gets overlooked is how deep the passion for the sport runs, down to every community. China has a very massive fan base. You can feel that love for the football in so many places, in schools, in neighborhoods, and in everyday conversations. Yeah.
I also want to chip in there. I think from my side of things, firstly, I think that part of the country, Jiangsu, Shanghai, Qingdao, there's a rich football culture there. If you consider, for example, look at Shandong, they've got 3 teams in the CSL at the moment, 2 based in Qingdao, 1 based in Jinan, Shandong Taishan. They've been around since forever.
Yeah.
Very consistent, very successful club. the two Shanghai teams have dominated professionally over the last 2-3 seasons, Shanghai Port and Shanghai Shenhua. Then you also had the fact that Jiangsu Suning were champions before what happened to them.
Yeah.
So I think it's a part of the country where, and Nantong had a team in the CSL as well recently. So I think it's a part of the country where already there's a very strong interest in football. And the fact that, it's now also being broadened to be a cultural event just has broadened the appeal, I think, in a part of China where indeed there's already been, I think, a very strong football culture and professional success. As I say, the Shanghai clubs have been successful for a long time. And now that the Guangzhou clubs have struggled, the Shanghai clubs have really taken charge of the CSL, although Beijing Guoan are having a good season. And I just also want to, look back at Chinese football just briefly and say that there have been good moments. The big club from Guangzhou, Evergrande, were twice Asian Champions League winners. That means you beat the best teams in South Korea, the best teams in Japan, the best teams in Australia, for example. China did qualify for the 2002 World Cup. So there have been good moments in China, and there is a passion. I remember walking on the streets when I first came to China in Shaoxing and seeing people in the Inter Milan or Juventus jerseys. Occasionally I would see a Beijing Guoan jersey maybe. Personally, I'm a Changchun Yatai fan, but I won't say too much because they're having a terrible season. But they were champions in 2007. But to cut to the chase, the Chinese football has enjoyed good moments. I mean, twice Asian Champions League winners. That says something. So there is a definite, a deep passion there. I know I went to watch rugby once at a pub in Beijing, and the pub was empty, barring from me and a few South Africans watching the Springboks playing against Australia. And when a Premier League game came on, I think it was Manchester United against someone, suddenly like 100 people, Chinese fans, came in with their jerseys, and I thought, okay, there's clearly the rugby didn't hit the spot, but the football is. So I think there is, just to echo what Eric says, there is a deep-rooted passion. And from my perspective, I think that part of the country in particular has a long history of success.
Yeah, I think, there's a culture and a sports, and there's a culture and fan base here in China about football.
I think there's also one key reason why I think I forgot to mention about why Su Chao has been such a hit. It's just I think it's a people's league. Many of the first of all, let me clarify a little bit. Most of the players, they are not professionals. They're people you might pass on the street, like teachers, high school students, IT workers, and even repairmen. Many of them work full-time jobs during the day, and they train at night. Some even need to take time off work just to make to the matches or training sessions. So, and also I want to mention that all of Su Chao's games, they are scheduled on weekends so that the ordinary citizens and tourists, they can attend during their time off. Yeah, that's why I think we call it a people's league. It's not just about convenience, it's about care. Right now when the summer temperatures recently became, dangerously high, the league just paused games. Yeah, it paused matches for player safety and fan comfort. And also the league, they just rescheduled to accommodate China's Gaokao college entrance exams, which tells you just how community-minded and grounded this league really is. Yeah.
And I wonder how much is the ticket price?
It's only 5 yuan to 20 yuan. Yeah, up to 20 yuan. Wow. So you can just buy a milk tea to watch the games. But it's really hard to get a ticket,
You have to find some, I don't know, secret software to get a ticket for Su Chao maybe. Yeah, it's like
so many people are scrolling online.
Yeah, maybe for after work. Right now we go to cinemas and we go to have dinners with our friends, and maybe in Jiangsu people just go to watch the Su Super League, watch a football game as a part-time enjoyment for them. So I have another question for you, Eric. So does it have to be like Jiangsu? Why is the football game so popular in Jiangsu? Does it have to be the province?
In Jiangsu, I think just like I said before, there are also some amateur leagues in other regions, not just in Jiangsu. But why Jiangsu made it so successful? One recent survey from a local statistic bureau showed that over 90% of people in Jiangsu have heard of Su Chao and get this. Most of the buzz isn't even coming from the traditional football fans. Like we said, Jiangsu has 13 cities, and each city they have different cultures, and they're also very economically strong. So
Yeah.
they have respect for each other, but also they're competitive in some way. So that's a natural element of the games. We may not compete so well, but in other fields, in other areas, we are not underdogs. So that's kind of natural elements behind the league, why it's going to be so popular in Jiangsu.
Why it is so popular? Maybe some of the reason, just as you said, is because the economic strength of each city in Jiangsu province is very balanced, and each city has its respective strengths. So when the fans they're cheering for the players, they're actually cheering for their city. So it's a kind of like sense of belonging for them, I guess, right? And you are from Suzhou, right? Eric, and what's the major like industries in Suzhou?
It's not just a football league. It's a league that has become an engine of economic growth right now. You mentioned about Suzhou. Yes, you mentioned about Suzhou. I think that Suzhou is actually benefiting from the league as well. They've got all in like over 100 restaurants, shopping malls, and tourist attracts, across the city are offering discounts for traveling fans. So this isn't just sport anymore. Su Chao has completely broken through the walls of traditional athletics. Traditional athletics. It's become a shared culture, in Jiangsu, where everyone can talk football, watch football, and feel like they're part of something bigger.
Yeah, I think from my side, like I said, the minute you have a derby element to a football game, a coach will often say, if you ask him what's going to happen, like you may say, let's say it's a Milan derby, and Inter have won the last 4 games, Milan have lost the last 4. The coach will say, well, it's a derby. In other words, anything can happen, because a derby has this extra passion. There's something special about it. And I think Jiangsu, as you guys pointed out, one, it's a very affluent part of the country. It's economically strong. It happens to have 13 prominent cities. And then you have this whole mix of the derby element to it. So there's the financial muscle behind it to really promote it. There's the derby element to it, and there happens to be 13 significant cities, like now we're debating Nanjing, Nantong, Wuxi, Suzhou, which is the better of the one, but they all are very high-profile cities with distinct characteristics, with success. So straight away, if Nantong are playing Wuxi, or you have Nanjing against Suzhou, there's that extra element of the derby, So for me, that is kind of almost a perfect blend of ingredients to make this spicy meal. And the nice thing is that while it's a spicy meal, at the end of the day, like you said, it's so important that once the match is over, you can shake hands and say, okay, well played, let's go and have a cup of tea or something,
Yeah. So yeah, it is a joke that friendship comes the 14th, friendship, because growing up we are told that friendship comes first and the results of the game comes later, but yeah.
In fact, it reminds me, I just want to chip in here, in the sport of rugby, for example. I remember when I was young, rugby was an amateur sport. It wasn't professional, rugby union, and today the players are professional. They make a lot of money, but some of the older players say they feel the players today are actually missing out. Because in the old days of South Africa played against New Zealand, while they were on the field, they were punching each other, stepping on each other, doing all kinds of nasty things to each other. And 45 minutes later, they're having a beer after the game, patched up with black eyes and broken lips, and they're shaking hands and chatting to each other. So, okay, what do you do when you're not playing? That social element to it, where the players actually got to know each other as people. Where in professional sport, often these days, it's a case of you've played the game, you go for your ice bath, you go for your massage on the plane to the next venue. And you and the most you do is shake the other guy's hand, but you never know the player. So that's the beauty of that, in that it builds a human connection. And I think that's important, in that there's a passionate side to it, but there's the social side to it. And that does give the sport that added significance of building connections, deep connections between people who maybe ordinarily may not have met. Some guy living in Nanjing, maybe he's a plumber in Nanjing. Some other guy is maybe Kwai for whatever in Wuxi, and suddenly they meet on the football field and they become friends.
Let me give you a quick example. Outside the stadium in Wuxi, there's this barbecue restaurant. On match days, fans who couldn't get tickets, they were gathered there to watch the game live on big screens. And when after Wuxi beat Changzhou that day, a big group of visiting Changzhou fans, I was there, they're licking their woods, showed up to eat. And what did the owner do? He gave all the Changzhou fans a 30% discount, just like that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I asked him why, and he was like, that's what grassroots football is all about. Yeah. We're rivals on the pitch, but off it, we're friends. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is actually like fostering a grassroots sports culture right here in China, right?
And also that sportsmanship. I just want to again touch on in South Africa, for example, many schools in South Africa, if you want to enroll your child, okay, one of the requirements the school has, like my oldest son went to a very good school and I paid a lot of money for the school. But the first thing they said to me was, if you want him to attend the school, you have to agree that he is going to play 2 major team sports. Not debatable, he's going to play 2 major team sports. The reason for that being is you want to develop a holistic student, a boy who can play with other boys, work together to win a game, celebrate together, and lose together, and learn to accept how to lose. At the end of the match, shake the other team's hand, because in that way you develop young men who learn how to work, or young women who learn how to work in a team, to accept victory and defeat, both with honor, and to shake the other guy's, the other woman's hand and say, hey, well played. That is very important in life, I think, to have that team spirit. And as you pointed out there, the fact that one of the persons outside the stadium who was selling things said to all the losing fans, okay, 30% off, you are hurting now, but we are going to make it a bit less painful by showing you some hospitality. Fantastic, I think.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, how is the young kids, the young kids in Africa, when they learn to play football, how is that different from the young kids playing in China?
Look, my experience has been, I worked in a kindergarten for a while in Wuhan, and I remember the very first soccer coaching session I had. When I rolled the football out, or a few footballs out, I was quite surprised to find how many children picked the ball up and began bouncing it. When South Africa, my experience there is the majority of the boys would kick it around. Where the kids picked it up and they bounced them. And I remember the first couple of sessions I had, some of the children just had no idea about football, no idea. But I had one young girl, she's maybe 6, and one young boy who may be 6. And they very quickly developed not only a feel for the ball, but a feel for the game. They very quickly realized that if I put the ball in that space, it's going to open up the possibility to score. Where many other children, they would just kick wildly, which gave me the impression they'd never actually seen a football match. where when I've watched like youngsters in South Africa, especially kindergarten level, they almost straight away, it's like they've watched football. And I think in that sense, maybe there is still a bit of a way to go in China, speaking generally in terms of developing a real football culture where, you know, at the age of 5, you've watched the game, you've listened to the commentary, and you look at the field and you go, okay, a quick throw in here is the way to go. And I had those 2 students, they very quickly, the one young boy, he would look at things and he would play a very intelligent ball. But many of his teammates were just not on the same wavelength. And eventually he became so frustrated. Like I could see, like, he's like, I put the ball in a good space, just control it and shoot. And the other boy who gets there just gives a wild kick and it goes into touch, you know. So I think maybe that is, and you know, that can take time. And maybe that is what has been missing in the higher levels of Chinese football, is that I know the government has put a lot of money into infrastructure, into introducing football into more schools in China. But sometimes these things take time. And while China has, I think, a very deep passion, maybe proportionally, there is still quite a large portion of the population that would maybe do basketball first, or maybe pick up a ping pong paddle first.
Right.
Where in South Africa, generally with youngsters, you know, if you're 5 or 6, 90% probably of the population, if a football comes your way, you ain't gonna pick it up unless you want to be the goalkeeper.
Wow. Yeah, that maybe a long way. Yeah, long way to go.
And I think that's why Su Chao is so valued. You know, it's getting people who never used to watch football and they're not following matches every week. And you know, right now it's you mentioned about the youth development. You know, now it's summer break. You know, in China, and the summer break is in full swing. A lot of kids and teenagers, they're actually getting into it. You know what's really cool? I know that some of the players from Suzhou's team, yeah, they're still in high school, actual teenagers, many of them under 18, and they're not just there to make up the numbers. Yeah, they've got real talent. Their performance is turning heads and inspiring, you know, a whole new generation of young fans to fall in love with football. I think that's incredible. That's just one of the most important impacts of Su Chao. Yeah.
And I think also just from my side, you know, sometimes if you want a young person to succeed at a sport, it's very important to get the buy-in of the parents. And, you know, I know that in China there's a huge emphasis on the Gaokao. And even in South Africa, the equivalent of the Gaokao is very important. But maybe sometimes, like if you're a Chinese parent and you look at the fact that Chinese football is not thriving and you have a talented young boy or young girl, you may say to them, oh, you know, you're wasting your time, rather focus on your Gaokao. And that I can understand. And that may hold some people back. So that may be something also, that a mindset that's going to have to change. But that sometimes is only going to change if parents can see maybe Chinese football is thriving, where the parent can think, wow, you know, maybe it's worth my child developing his or her football skills because look how well the Chinese players are doing. And that's another battle I think you're going to have to win, is getting parents to get behind their children and say, yes, you play soccer. It's a good idea. Where I suspect some parents may be saying, oh my gosh, no, rather study for your Gaokao or do ping pong or something because it's a more tried and tested route to success. And so that is maybe something also that's going to have to change. And even like in South Africa, many professional players, especially in the sport of rugby and cricket, who now sign contracts when they're 18. What many of the franchises insist on now is that the players also enroll in some kind of university degree. So they're playing professional sport, but maybe they'll do their bachelor's over 8 years. So there's a backup plan. Very often, those players, when they sign their contracts, immediately the franchise will make an appointment with a financial advisor, where the player sits down and the person says to him, I suggest you invest your money as follows. Those are to create those plan Bs for those professionals in sport who are not so lucky, who maybe have a serious injury at age 19 or age 20 and suddenly it's gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe also something where football is going to have to succeed, is to convince parents to say to their son or daughter, yes, pursuing a football career is a good idea. Because without parental support, it's impossible.
Yeah, I think what you said about backup plans is very
Yeah.
important, because this reminds me of my experience when I was in kindergarten. There was a coach who went into our classroom, and he's a swimming coach, and he wants to pick one of the talented young kids to go to the sports training center to train for swimming. I was in Zhejiang province. I was born in Hangzhou, and Zhejiang is very famous for its like swimming team. And we know like Sun Yang, he's from Hangzhou. Maybe like at that time, I always keep thinking that maybe I would be a teammate of Sun Yang if I was picked at that time. But my parents thought it was too risky, like for me to choose that training route, not the traditional like studying route. Like for me, I think if we have backup plans, because not so many people they will be as successful as Sun Yang,
Yes.
right? So if we have a backup plans, we have. We can also go to maybe other like top universities. We can find a good job, and we will try to find. We will try to train like sports, and train for football. Like
Yeah, see what they do in South Africa is like they'll say to the to the young player, right? We know you can't do your bachelor's in 4 years, right? Because there's too much pressure on you in terms of professional sport. You're always traveling. There's media commitments. There's all kinds of things, right? So they'll say to the player, okay, do your bachelor's over 8 years, right? You stagger it so your load is not too heavy. And then, as I say, they'll get the financial advisor to sit the player down and say to him, look, we suggest you put 25% of what you earn into property. Put 20% into the stock market. Keep 15% cash. They explain to the player how financial planning works. So you have the player who can invest his money well. You have the player who is working on something else. And that often will also get the parent on board, where the parent will say, okay, I can see it's a holistic thing. Because I think many parents, I'm a parent, you do think like, what happens if you break your leg at 20? Yeah. There's a risk. And of course, if you succeed in sport, there's a high reward as well. But the risk element is absolutely there. And I think maybe that is one of the obstacles from my observation that maybe Chinese football still will have to surmount is to give parents the sense that it's a good idea to encourage my child to pursue soccer or football, as we call it as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of Su Chao, Nantong, look at Nantong, one of the league's strongest teams down there at the top. Many of their players, they came up through local youth academies. The city has even integrated football into its middle school entrance exams, and now has I think that there are over 240 professional recognized football folks, professional school programs. That's the real investment in the future.
Yeah. In football, they always say, if you want a great team, you build from the back. You sign your defenders first. You sign a good goalkeeper first. That is not the flashy part of the game, right? But if you invest in the strikers first, you're going to win some games 4-3, you're going to lose some 4-3, you're going to have exciting football, but you ain't going to win a trophy, right? You build from the back. And I think with football and any sport, you build from the bottom. You get the grassroots things sorted out first, and then later on, the cream will rise to the top, and you have a solid foundation. Like a good football team, you build from the back, you have a solid defense, you don't concede goals, and that breeds consistent success.
Yeah, and talking about the cities we just mentioned, Nantong, you mentioned.
Yeah, I used to live in Nantong.
Yeah. Give us some context about the cities behind these games, because our listeners from foreigner, they may not so be familiar with these cities. Nantong, Jiangsu, and Nanjing. What are their major industries in these cities, and or what's some cultural and historical element behind the rivalry of Su Chao game? Maybe Eric, you go first.
I want to first ask Andre, what's your feeling, what's your impression about Nantong?
I like Nantong. I was there in 2021. I spent 5 months there. I was on the edge of the city, not really in the city center. I forget the name of the district, but what I remember the most was actually the fishing. There was this lake close to where I worked, and the guys used to catch these gigantic fish. And I was a keen fisherman in South Africa, and so that what stuck out for me was like these huge fish in the canals. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And one day there was a guy, he hooked this massive fish, and he couldn't get it out because he didn't have a net. I said to him, where's your net? He said, Mayo. And so I went down to try and get the fish out, but the fish got off. But when I think of Nantong, I remember the amazing fishing there was there. At that point, that was, I guess, because I had a keen interest in fishing, I always think of Nantong as these beautiful big fish in these canals. And also, when I was in Nantong, actually, we had a bit of a scary experience. There was a tornado. A tornado happened quite close to where I lived, and I remember the next morning going outside, and you know these solar heaters you have for the water? They were lying on the ground. That's how fierce that storm was at the time. And that was COVID time, so my ability to explore Nantong wasn't as great as I would have liked. You know, that was a difficult time for many of us. But I enjoyed it, and for me, as I say, it may sound boring, but the fishing really stood out.
And I think Nantong, I heard Nantong is the hometown of the construction industry. A lot of construction industries there.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe the industry is going through some downturn, but I heard people there are super rich.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your take, Eric?
Yeah, I think each city in Jiangsu is rich. Yeah, people there are rich.
Yeah.
So I think there's just so much to love about Su Chao. You know, one of the things, that makes it so much fun is the rich local flavor, you know, behind it. Jiangsu, we all know that there are 13 cities in Jiangsu, and each they have its own unique cultural identity and even dialect. You know, we have totally different dialects, and in Jiangsu, 13 cities, 13 dialects, and that cultural diversity adds a very a really playful, lighthearted dynamic to the rivalries. You know, I think what makes Su Chao particularly engaging is that it's vibrant, cultural-infused identity. Teams, you know, it's really funny that teams often nicknamed after the city's specialties. Wuxi, you've been to Wuxi. Wuxi is represented by its juicy honey peaches, you know.
Okay.
In Nanjing, it's famous for its salted duck. So the team symbol is iconic salted duck. So when Wuxi takes on Nanjing, it's the honey peaches versus the salted duck. It's really funny. And Changzhou, they has gone with a dinosaur, because the city is home to a dinosaur park. It's a very famous dinosaur park. So it's quirky, it's clever, and honestly, it's very charming, you know, to the outsiders. They have to get into the culture to understand the real the identity behind it, and it's all in good fun. These grassroots slogans, memes, and city-themed identities have helped people, you know, reconnect with their hometowns in new ways. People here, they're rediscovering. They are not aware of it, but they're rediscovering what makes each city so special. So the civics pride, you know, is pulling more and more casual viewers into becoming very passionate supporters of Su Chao. Yeah.
I just want to ask, you mentioned the honey in Wuxi and in Nanjing, the salted duck. What is Nantong? What is the Nantong team called? I want to know.
Yeah, the Nanjing team, its symbol is a wolf. you know,
A
a
wolf?
wolf. Because, yeah, there's a mountain called Langshan. In Chinese, we call it Langshan in Nantong.
Ah.
And so Nantong is a wolf, and representing that this is very strong team. You know, this is a very strong team. It's very fierce. Yeah. Yeah. So
Strong as a wolf.
just like a wolf.
Oh,
It's
fantastic.
not
Yeah, it
so
reminds me.
cute like the yeah, it's not so cute, but it's just, you know, representing how strong Nantong is.
Ah, okay. Because the
And by the
mountain
way,
has the wolf in it. Yeah.
yeah, and by the way, you know, students in Nantong, they're very good at studying. So they're like, we can both, you know, studying well and playing football well. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, the Wolves. Yeah, in fact, there's a few teams in the world that has that. There's a team in England called Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're known as the Wolves. There's a team in Nigeria called Warri Wolves. So, the wolf is quite a famous, much loved emblem for many teams, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny. Like there's a joke like about when you ask people from Jiangsu province, where are you from? They wouldn't say I'm from Jiangsu province. He would say I'm from Su Chao, I'm from Nanjing, I'm from Nantong, but he would never say I'm from Jiangsu province. So
Okay.
I think that really says the economic strength of each city.
Wow,
Like
yeah. So
in
you
Jiangsu.
associate with your city, not your province, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought the civic pride, you know, the civic pride, because they have strong identity of their hometowns. You know, there's some kind of cultural side stories are just as entertaining as the games. Take this one for example. Everyone in China knows Journey to the West. It's one of the most iconic classics in Chinese literature. And the author Wu Chengren, he was born in Huai'an City, but the legendary birthplace of Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, is a real mountain called Huaguoshan, which happens to be in Lianyungang. So when Huai'an and Lianyungang faced off in Su Chao, the internet had a field day. You know, fans they call it the battle of the real Monkey King, who's the true hometown of Sun Wukong. Is it the author's roots or the mountain where he was born? So it's all, you know, tongue in cheek, of course, but it's such a perfect example of how this league brings history, humor, and hometown pride into the game. It's you know, we say that it's football meets folklore, and people love it.
I like that. Football meets folklore. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
and
that's
and I could even think of football tourism coming out of this, you know?
I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of like are there like tangible economic benefits that Su Chao has brought to Jiangsu province?
Like I said before, Su Chao has become more than just football. You know, it's now a real lever for economic growth. Take one of the massive matches on July the 5th between Nanjing and Suzhou, two major cities in Jiangsu, and it's a real spectacle. And outside the stadium, there were like 66 public viewing zones, set up across the city. Fans were out in plazas and beer gardens watching the match on big screens, holding cold beers and eating barbecue. That single night alone, I think, generated a staggering like 340 million yuan in local spending.
Wow.
Yeah, that's roughly more than $45 million. Yeah. So
That's a lot.
here's the thing. Yeah, even if a city, you know, loses the match, it can still win in other ways. One example of this, you know, look at Changzhou. Their team hasn't had much longer the pitch. They have lost like 6 straight games. but their underdog appeal, has turned the city into a trading tourist destination this summer. And their mascot, the dinosaur, is sought after. They're selling very well. And now it's summer vacation time, and traveling with Su Chao has also become a new trend. People are literally planning vacations, based on their league schedule. It's just incredible. So, and also, I'll give you another example. It's very. I was in Wuxi recently. It's peak season for their famous honey peaches right now. Yeah, and Wuxi's team mascot, like I said, it's naturally the honey peach. So there's one local farmer. He told me that thanks to the Su Chao buzz, now their peach sales this year are way up, way up compared to last summer. Yeah. So yes, football is now good for fruit sales too.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I guess it's a sweet success in Wuxi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet success.
Wuxi is famous for its sweet, sweetness. Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's fantastic. And as you say again, the fact that you can be on the losing side and still be a winner, that's really a win-win scenario, isn't it, in many ways, right?
Yeah, and I think sports tourism is actually gaining momentum, like in China. Not only football, because I play tennis, and I know you play tennis.
Yes, I do.
I know there are a lot of like resorts, like vacation places. They will offer this like tennis court. They have like 5-day, 6-day like tennis training, and they will offer you like supreme hotels with a coach, but you pay a premium price to go to the place. So I think, and it's always booked before I ask.
Oh, wow, that sounds fantastic.
So yeah,
like
really
a tennis vacation. You can have
vacation.
have a physiotherapist to give you a proper massage after your day. You feel like a professional player, right?
And you can meet friends there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also you're spending your time moving, not sitting looking at your phone all the time. So it's a very healthy pursuit as well. That sounds fantastic. I mean, in South Africa, we also have football tourism, or sports tourism. It's somewhat different. Like if the national team, let's say the national football team or the national rugby team or cricket team plays, sometimes there'd be tour groups that'd be organized. Let's say they're going to spend 3 weeks in New Zealand. Then you'll go like as maybe a tour group of 30, and you'll follow the team whether they play in a small place like, let's say, Invercargill in midweek and then play the big test match in Auckland on the weekend. It is, in a way, a different type of football tourism. But the one you've spoken about now, Yolanda, which I'd never heard of before, is where you can actually go on a tennis retreat and you have like 7 days of tennis and the courts are yours. You got a good coach. You can play against other people. That also sounds fantastic, a very hands-on approach.
Yeah, maybe for your next vacation, you'll go to tennis.
Some tennis. Would you be a popular tennis? I'm guessing Hubei is popular for tennis, right?
Hubei, because of Zheng Qingwen and other Lina tennis players.
Lina, in fact, I used to live in Wuhan, and I lived next to a tennis court. 6 tennis courts. I was quite happy while I was there. It was great.
They opened all kind of this like tennis academy in Shangri-La, 西双版纳.
Oh yes, that would be in Yunnan, right, in the
Yunnan.
southwest.
Yeah, and in 浙江千岛湖, yeah. So you can go like see the scenery while at the same time playing tennis.
And I just wanted to mention, I didn't mention earlier, which I quite like about just getting back to the professional game in China, the Chinese Super League.
Right.
At the moment, there's a team in Yunnan playing in the Chinese Super League. You have a team in Jilin, obviously, my favorite team, Changchun Yatai. So there's quite a nice spread of teams. There's a team in Chengdu playing in the Chinese Super League. It's not as if Beijing, Shanghai, and the East Coast dominates. There are a couple of professional teams also in the western regions of the country and also in Dongbei, which I think is something about the Chinese Super League which I like. There are teams all across the country, and that shows that that the Chinese Super League has managed to reach even, shall we say, the more border regions of the country and perhaps less affluent than obviously the East Coast. And I think that's encouraging as well.
Yeah. And that brings to the next question. So, do you think can other Chinese cities replicate the success of Su Chao?
Before we move into this topic, I think uh, you guys are talking about the tourism boom. Yeah, I think there's a kind of new uh, movement here in Jiangsu because cities across Jiangsu are clearly embracing the tourism boom brought by Su Chao. They're not just organizing matches; they're actually rolling out the red carpet. Offering tailored perks and building a full fan experience around the game. And I know that several local governments have even made Su Chao a strategic, economic priority for the second half of this year. It's amazing, and at a recent economic briefing, the governor of Jiangsu urged officials to, fully leverage the league to drive integration of culture, tourism, sports, and business, and spark a consumption-led economy. Um, and there's some kind of interesting things as well. Some cities have even launched, exclusive high-speed rail services just for the away game fans. Think about that. Round trip trains connecting rival cities on match days and with discounted tickets. This is making it easier for fans to travel and support their teams. Yeah, that's one point that I want to add it on the tourism part. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe other cities like in the country, they won't have this economic strength to support this, right?
I would tend to agree with that in the sense that I think to be successful, you obviously need that type of you need money. Let's be honest, to promote it, to have the trains, to have the connectivity, to promote the event beyond your provincial boundaries. And you also need to have a basic interest, and I do feel like we discussed, in Jiangsu, there is that region. Shanghai is not in Jiangsu, but it's adjacent to Jiangsu.
Right.
There's a long tradition of football excellence, and I think maybe a province like Shandong may have a good chance. I think of succeeding in that. They have 3 teams in the CSL at the moment, and Shandong Taishan from Jinan has been there forever. They've been a fixture in Chinese football, professional football, and have had significant cup success, less in the league. So for my money, I think a province like Qingdao would have a province like Shandong with Qingdao, Jinan, Yantai, Zibo, and a beautiful coastline. They may have I feel have a shot at having a very high profile one. Maybe in Guangdong, you could think, they had those 2 big teams with Evergrande and RNF. But we look at Guizhou. Guizhou is not exactly, it's not exactly the center of what's happening in China. They have a lot of good things going for them, but their league was successful as well. So a lot may depend, on the basic interest, but also on how involved local governments get, how much money they put into the game, so to speak, because you do get return on investment sometimes. And the more you put in, the bigger the risk, but also the more the potential for success. So I think from my perspective, and Eric can give us his view, he lives there, he's more in tune. I just feel that Jiangsu do have a good recipe already in terms of interest, in terms of the fact that the money's there, the connectivity is there. Number 13, all successful cities fairly close to one another. And from my money, if I look at the outside looking in, I would say a place like Shandong would be well placed to do that. I feel maybe even Guangdong province with Guangzhou, Shenzhen, places like that. Perhaps they would have a head start maybe on provinces that aren't quite as affluent and as steeped in football culture.
Yeah, right. Eric, what's your take?
Yeah, I really hope to see Su Chao, expand beyond Jiangsu. Maybe even involve into a Yangtze River Delta League. Yeah, this region, Shanghai, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Anhui, it's one of the most economically dynamic areas in all of China.
Right.
They have huge population, strong infrastructure, and each province has its own distinct identity and strengths. But they're also closely connected. High-speed rail makes traveling between cities super convenient, even for a football weekend. Yeah. So just imagine, using football as a shared platform, not just to compete, but to connect, to connect these regions. And a regional league like this could really spark, healthy rivalries, cultural exchange, and even deeper economic integration through sports. So I think it'd be fascinating to watch how football becomes a bridge, in that process.
Yeah, I really like what you said. It's not about competing, it's about connecting, right? In the Yangtze River Delta, we are called the 包邮区, meaning that the delivery from e-commerce is always like for free for this region. So that says about the
Okay.
connectiveness about this region.
I mean, one shouldn't underestimate the value of connectivity. People are busy,
right.
and if you can be from one city to the next in 45 minutes, you could potentially watch 3 games in a weekend.
Yeah.
Comfortably.
Football weekend. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, before we wrap up, is there anything to add about Su Chao and Jiangsu province, maybe? Eric?
Yeah, there's actually one point that I really want to share. To me, I think Su Chao, it's not only about competition, To me, Su Chao feels like a mirror, reflecting the vitality and emotional core of football in its purest form. And it may not stay this hot forever, actually. But what it's already done is create a powerful ripple effect, a real sports atmosphere that you can feel now across Jiangsu. I'm seeing more and more local football fields, packed at night. People just want to play. So I think it's shown us something crucial that to truly build a great league, you need more than money or infrastructure. You need to tap into civic pride, understand what the community wants, and build a culture that goes beyond just copying what's being done elsewhere. So, and at the end of the day, Su Chao is doing something special. That's it's making people, who already love football, love it even more, and it's turning those who didn't care before into new fans, and that to me is a very beautiful thing. Yeah.
Just from my side, I think if you want to have something successful, you have to tap into the eternal, some things that have been around for a very long time that are not going to go away, and that's where the cultural comes into it. Those things have been around for thousands of years. So you've got the eternal element there, that eternal, I want to say rivalry, but also an eternal sharing. And then you have to also evolve. For this event to continue to be successful, they are going to have to always, you have to have some new ideas, ways to improve it. So you tap into the eternal, and that's where, for me, the cultural is so important here. Like Eric said, this cultural depth that this event has. And then, as I say, to keep it going, the challenge will be to tap into the eternal, but to present it in fresh ways. Because the moment any kind of rivalry or any kind of tournament stagnates, you're also in trouble. So I feel there's a very strong foundation here based on eternal things, and now it's going to be up to the organizers really to make this something that is still happening 45 years from now. You look at some of the great football rivalries. I mean, the Milan Derby, they've been playing each other for over 100 years. But these things don't just happen by accident. It's a constant refreshing of that eternal rivalry or that eternal culture or that eternal sharing. And that, for me, is going to be the secret here is for the organizers to realize that you can't just rest on your laurels. You have to always be asking, what can we do better? What has changed? And there, I think doing careful research, getting careful feedback from the people who care about this event is going to be key.
What began as a provincial football league has become China's most unexpected summer obsession. Su Chao isn't just changing football, it's rewriting what sports means in China. I'm Yolanda with Andre and Eric. This is Trending in China. If you like our podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Little Universe 小宇宙. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, and see you next time.